He's writing a manifesto. Did he tell you? Apparently the only thing keeping us from liberty is a few more ideas.
There will be times when the struggle seems impossible. I know this already. Alone, unsure, dwarfed by the scale of the enemy. Remember this. Freedom is a pure idea. It occurs spontaneously, and without instruction. Random acts of insurrection are occurring constantly throughout the galaxy. There are whole armies, battalions that have no idea that they've already enlisted in the cause. Remember that the frontier of the rebellion is everywhere. And even the smallest act of insurrection pushes our lines forward. The Imperial need for control is so desperate because it is so unnatural. Tyranny requires constant effort. It breaks. It leaks. Authority is brittle. Oppression is the mask of fear. Remember that. And know this. The day will come when all these skirmishes and battles, moments of defiance, will have flooded the banks of the Empire's authority, and then there will be one too many. One single thing will break the siege. Remember this. Try.
Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Music okay? Volume okay? I see it in the chat. Everything cool? Can you guys see? Is the background music too loud? That's always a thing. How is everyone today? Awesome. So glad to be here. Okay, so this is our monthly podcast that we have. It is the Behind the Scenes podcast, is where we bring in some of our folks that are working with us on the films, and also be able to bring in other folks that love Star Wars. And this month's episode is really about the Rebels. And, obviously we will be showcasing a lot of Star Wars Rebels later on in the show. I'm going to start off by saying that we are going to be uploading here an arc of stories called The Five Tales. And that is going to be 5 different videos that focus specific things on where things are up until the moment that our story begins. So the 5 arcs that we're going to be covering are the Resistance, the Jedi, the Cosmic Force, the New Republic, and the Sith Empire. And we're going to kind of like have a summary of everything that's happened until this point. And, going forward, we will tell that story within our movie. So look for those in the channel. They should be releasing here in just a few days. We'll start with the Resistance, and we hope you enjoy those. Be sure to share them and like and, get them to everyone that wants them. So we're going to start today, as we always do, with an introduction to our guests. I have actors with me once again. I have my Rebels with me, so I'm very excited about that. We did have one person that was unfortunately sick. Our Lando Calrissian will not be here today, but we send him lots of great vibes, and hopefully he gets to feeling better real soon. So I will start with that, and I'll bring them in one by one. And then we will then start the discussions. We are going to talk about Rebels throughout history. That is Rebels within our own human history on this planet, as well as talking a little bit about how those important figures in our lives and the things that we look up to have influenced the performances of these cast members that you see today in their roles, as well as just, as human beings and part of this great big world that we live in. And then we will talk a little bit about the sacrifices you never see. You guys just saw Nemec's manifesto. Thank you very much to Swift Edits for allowing us to showcase his video for this podcast. And that is from Andor. And, Andor really does focus on the story of the rebels. And it's really an interesting journey in that TV show. I know a lot of people didn't like it. Some folks say that it didn't feel like Star Wars. To me, it was brilliant. It is my favorite TV show of all time. And I definitely, just value everything in there. There's some amazing performances by the likes of Andy Serkis and, of course, Stellan Skarsgård and Diego Luna. And, they really focused on the story of how the rebellion really got its first spark, right? So we'll talk about all those sacrifices that we saw throughout Star Wars, not just, within Andor or within Rogue One, but even throughout, right? So we will talk about all of those. And then, of course, we will talk about what happens after you succeed, right? So what happens when you remove the evil power and you are left trying to rebuild, trying to set up government, trying to really bring some sense of order to the galaxy. And we'll talk a little bit about the challenges that our characters are going to face throughout that in our movies, right? So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll talk about, of course, Star Wars Rebels, the series. We really can't, talk about the Rebels series, right, without really focusing in on the fact that in a few days, guys, we are going to get Star Wars Ahsoka. And Star Wars Ahsoka is basically a continuation of that series. It is my most beloved of the animated series in there. I do love the Bad Batch quite a bit too. So, and of course, the Clone Wars. Everybody loves the Clone Wars. So, absolutely amazing there. So we'll talk about that. And then finally, we will open it up to a couple of Q&As from the audience about, our project, about any of the cast members or the characters that they play. You are welcome to ask anything and everything. Okay. All right. And without further ado, I'm going to start by, getting into the introduction. So let me start with our Princess Leia. Please welcome Leah Barnett. There she is.
Hi guys. Hi everyone. Thanks for having me.
Oh no, it's my honor and my pleasure, really. To have you and to have you play such an iconic character, right?
My honor.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. If there's one rebel in history that everybody says, okay, she's like the epitome of what being a rebel is about, it's Princess Leia, right? Like
100%.
Right.
Yes.
And it's so funny because I often it's so funny that you're named that way, right? Like your name is Leah. And I'm always like, it's Leah, it's Leia. I'm always like mixing those two. So at some point today, I will call you Leia.
I love it. As mentioned 100 times before, call me whatever you want, Maria.
All right. And then, of course, we have Miss Susan Robb. And Susan plays Maz Kanata. Say hello, Susan.
Hello.
Oh, we're so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're so excited to have you. And of course, Maz Kanata is one of those characters that for me, in the sequels really stood out. I wanted to know so much more about her. She's just as mysterious to me as Yoda. Just having that, over 1,000-year history. She's kind of been able to see everything for so long. So I totally love that we are definitely including her in our story, and she gets a huge arc in our story. So I love that you get to play her, Susan.
Me too. And Maria, you can call me anything you want to.
Well, your name isn't Maz. I think that if your name was Maz, we would be, that'd be like a trifecta kind of thing. Right? All right. And then we have, of course, one of the most important characters in the sequels that is very beloved for me. We have Mr. Jason Dania, who plays Finn.
Hello.
Hi, Jason. How are you? Welcome.
I'm good.
And thank you so much for taking the time to do this with us and have some fun with us. So,
no problem. Thanks for having me.
Finn for me is, he has a soft spot in my heart. I felt like, we really kind of misused him in a way in 7 and 8. In 8 and 9. I thought, coming out of 7, we were going to see like Finn, really go the route of the Jedi for me. So I intend to make that a reality. So I'm looking forward to seeing how you portray that, Jason. And of course, now we have Miss Taylor Johnson. Hi, Taylor.
Hi.
Another favorite of mine. It's no secret that I really did not enjoy The Rise of Skywalker. I liked about 10% of The Rise of Skywalker, and I gotta say that Zorii Bliss was probably a large part of that 10%. She was great. The way that Kerry Russell portrayed her was she's just got so much swag, right? And she's just, all the time. And I just thought, that's how you do it. That's how you feature a strong, independent, powerful woman, just being that badass, right? So I can't wait to see what you do with the role, and the story that we have coming for her, and of course her beloved Poe Dameron. So, and finally, but certainly not least, we have Mr. Robert. Oh my God, I just blanked. Robert I'm just gonna say Gantuangco, right? It's similar.
Yeah,
almost there.
It's close enough. Even I can't pronounce my name sometimes, so it's fine.
It's totally cool. It's totally cool, right? But
Thanks
Robert,
for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. Robert is one of our background actors, and I wanted to showcase that here. I wanted to see, I wanted everyone to see and show everyone that, we really do treat all of our actors the same. I treat all of my actors just the same as I would a physical actor. I see no difference between a physical actor and a voice actor for me. And I thought, let's showcase that, the entirety of our cast. And we brought Robert on to do that for us. Robert plays Beaumont, who was actually played by Dominic Monaghan, who is famous for being on the hit TV series Lost. So, and also Lord of the Rings. Yeah. So he was famously in that. So welcome everybody. So I really love that we are here today. I'm so excited to have you, and I thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for doing this with us. I feel like the music is not quite. Is the music too? I don't hear it. Do you guys hear it?
No.
No, I hear it. Can. We hear it a little bit. The music is okay? It's not overpowering? I'm so excited to have you. Awesome. Sweet. All right, guys. So we're going to talk through some really cool topics today. We're going to hit a little bit of the real world with our, rebels throughout history in our world. And, we're going to talk a little bit about that. So let's go ahead and start that conversation. Taking a stance against oppression is nothing new in our world. It's been part of our human history since we learned how to write. We are hardwired to challenge tyrannical rule because taking a stance for what we believe in is an existential part of humanity. Let's take a look at how our rebels draw their stories from the pages of history. All right, and we are back. Here we are, rebels throughout history. So I think my first question to the panel is going to be, Of all the important figures that we've had throughout history, which ones do you guys gravitate to the most? Which ones have really been definitive for you guys in some way? And, tell us a little bit about why you chose them. So I'm going to start with Leah. Or Leah.
Yeah.
Told you.
Love it. I actually chose like a not good rebel, like a negative guy. And I was thinking, I don't know why, but Henry VIII always resonates with me. I know he's like the most popular British monarch
He
to
is.
ever live, but why it's like it was so ugly, his like breaking from the religious groups and how we're still feeling the effects today is just an example of how a bad rebel is, and he went against, or separated church and state and whatnot, but we're still feeling the effects almost 500 years later, and how it's almost an example of what not to do. I don't know. It's just
it gravitated to you, right? I guess.
yeah. Like
And-
how one day's decision can affect.
What was it about him that, like, what was the one thing about him that you would say that was a good thing?
Well, he started out really well, right? Like he started out with, I think, maybe not loving parents, but he had a brother who he didn't have to worry about. He wasn't going to be the heir, and he could just live his life and be charming. And then he got some power, and then, shit hit the fan.
Yeah, I mean, power tends to corrupt, right? So, yeah.
Exactly.
And
So not a good rebel, but a rebel.
Definitely a rebel.
Yeah.
All right. And Susan, what about you? Who is your rebel? And tell us why. I think you're muted. Just unmute.
I apologize.
That's okay. You're cool. There you go. Now we can hear you.
My rebel is she's very good. And her name's Margaret Sanger. Are you familiar?
No. Do tell.
She is a birth control activist or was, I should say, a sex educator and a nurse and a writer. And she had the first birth control clinic in 1916. So if you can imagine what kind of challenge that would be in that day and age, that's pretty crazy.
Wow.
But I have a current hero that, and I really want her to go down in history. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about her.
Okay.
Her name's Anne-Marie McQueen. And Anne-Marie has joined the gig economy actually quite a while ago. And she is a health journalist, and she curates all kinds of information that people my age do not know about menopause.
Yeah.
This woman is my hero. So I just wanted to mention her for everyone.
It's fantastic. We love to hear it. And we love to learn about what makes you guys, so unique and what inspires you and who inspires you guys. So I love that you brought that to us. I'd never heard of Margaret Sanger. So there you go. So now I'm going to have to Google her and learn all about her. And I'm sure everybody in the chat is going to do the same. All right.
Awesome. I'm glad.
And Jason, what about you? Who is your hero, your favorite rebel, and how has they inspired you?
My favorite rebel would happen to be MLK, because it wasn't just him. It was more like a mixture of a bunch of the civil rights leaders from the time from his time period, like John Lewis and Malcolm X and all of them. But with MLK, I felt like with him, a lot of his speeches resonated with me, and a lot of what he was trying to convey with all his messages is what really spoke to me. Because at first he was trying to approach it in a way that was peacekeeping, but after a while he started to realize that there were certain things that he would have to
you're gonna have to get dirty.
Accept.
Yeah. I mean, he was gonna be my hero as well. I love MLK, Martin Luther King Jr., of course, and he was just he had a dream. And, I'm actually living that dream right now, because in this panel, not only do I have women, right? I have people of color. I have people of various different descendancies and ethnicities, and our cast is fully international. So I am kind of living Martin Luther King's dream a little bit for him. So yeah, for me as well. But I have another one. But we'll start with Taylor. Taylor, tell us about your favorite rebel in history and why they inspire you.
I chose Joan of Arc. It was just when I learned, first off, that, when she led the army, the French army during the 100 Years' War, she was like 16 or 17, and I thought mind-blowing. First off, just like amazing that she did that, and that's what really resonated with me, because you're never too young to do amazing things like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, literally, she was like 15, right? She was very young.
yeah.
Yeah. So when she kind of led everybody into revolution, I mean, that was amazing. So and for a woman, and I mean, she actually was out in the field, like she picked up a, what I mean? Like she was,
Yep.
Yeah.
so total.
She was leading those men.
That's right, total rebel. So love that. All right, and then Robert, what about you? Who is your hero, and tell us why they inspire you?
Yeah, this is actually pretty fitting because I was really excited when Taylor said Joan of Arc because, my country's history. Oh, hello, Kat. My country's history was half rebelling. We had like nearly 4 centuries of just rebelling against colonizers, and there's a lot of people I can name, but the one in particular that really struck out, and her name was Teresa Magbanua. And she was actually called the Visayan Joan of Arc, which is like our version. Visayan's like the central region in the Philippines.
Yes.
And, she was a school teacher who retired and became a housewife. And she learned how to farm, she learned how to shoot, and she learned to ride on horseback. And then when the Philippine Revolution was in full swing, she just didn't hesitate to join the effort, even though her even though her husband didn't allow it. She fought anyway. She became a battalion leader. She won several key battles during the Philippine Revolution, and she was probably one of the few. I don't know if I'm correct. I'm right in saying this, but I think she was one of the few Filipino heroes who fought in the Philippine Revolution, the Philippine American War, and participated in World War II. She was in her 70s at this point, but
Wow.
I think this a hero like her says a lot about how, like Taylor said, like you're not too young, you're not too old. Doesn't matter what your gender is, where you come from. If you have that conviction that something isn't right about the world, and you stand by it, and then nothing can stop you. And I think it says a lot about how real the stories in Star Wars feel, and it sort of mirrors like how these normal people take a stand against tyranny. Then that's why this woman's called her name's Teresa Magbanua. You can look her up. She has a really interesting life.
Love that. Love that.
Love
And
it.
I love hearing about all the different ones, because I mean, obviously, I mean, we don't know everything, right? So like learning about Teresa, learning about Margaret, that's just super perfect for me, and that's one of the things that I really wanted to bring to these podcasts. Like last month, right, in the lovers chat, we talked about Shakespeare, and we talked about the love story in your stage plays of like olden years, and how that's evolved, and how it's still very like true today. Like you read Romeo and Juliet, or you read Macbeth, or stuff like that. It's all really just still so relevant today, and I think that as actors, that is the mark that you make, right? Of being able to bring those characters to life and inform other people about these stories. And I think that Star Wars does that so well. There's so many stories within the realm of Star Wars. It's not just your Jedi and your Sith fighting it out with lightsabers, but there's so many people that have been the ground floor for all of those stories to take place. I mean, Star Wars wouldn't be Star Wars without the rebels. there would be no Star Wars without the rebels. There would be no Luke Skywalker. There would be that just it's so evident and resonant with the fabric of this franchise. So I love that. And I think one of the other questions I had is for all of you guys, and anybody can jump in at any time, is why do you think that your character decides to join the rebellion? Like, what prompts that character? What's at the core of the issue within themselves that makes them go, I need to join this effort and this cause? Anybody's welcome to jump in.
Oh, well, I'll jump in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Princess Leia.
Let me tell you about the rebellion. No, like, if you look at Princess Leia as a character, she was exposed to this at such a young, early age by her adoptive parents. And I mean, but it's also in her bloodline. Like, you look at how political her mother was, and like her birth mother, Padme, and then you look at the badassery of Anakin. But she came from so much love, but she was also exposed to politics and had such a political upbringing. So she saw the good, the bad, the ugly. But I can dive more into her later if anyone else has why someone would want to join the rebellion, just to fight some of that ugliness that she saw at such an early age.
You're muted, Susan. It's totally cool.
What the hell?
It's okay.
Okay. Yeah, I can go next from here too. Maz, well, was she the first rebel? I don't know.
That's a debate.
It is.
I mean, she's over 1,000 years old, so
she might have been.
She might have been.
Exactly. I've lost count. I don't know what her exact age is. I just know she's over 1,000. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing that really is the core of her decision is her connection to the Force and her need for truth and light.
Yep. I would agree with that. I also feel like she had such a strong friendship with Leia. They went on I don't know. People do not know this just because, again, people don't often read the books or the novels or the comics, et cetera, et cetera. But Maz had this quite varied history with Han and Leia. They would go on adventures together when Leia was younger. Little Ben would go to her castle, and Maz would teach him how to cook whatever she was cooking. And so they were very close friends. And I think that a lot of the spirit that Maz has to continue that work comes from honoring her two good friends in Han and Leia. So I think that's very true. How about you guys? Anyone else?
I want to let General Finn speak. Yeah.
General Finn.
Well, with Finn, initially he was kind of just like unsure if this whole resistance thing was even going to pan out. So like a lot of his decisions were mostly made on adrenaline, I feel. Yeah. And he was very just like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but I got to do it.
Yeah. It was very spur of the moment, very quick decision making in just a second, And I think a lot of it also for Finn was just like, Rey was really the first person that I think that he actually made friends with. It's not like he was friends with any one of the other conscripted soldiers, right? That served the First Order. He didn't have like a close friendship with anyone, and Rey was like the first person that really offered him that friendship, right? And all of a sudden, like she's in peril. So being the good guy that he is, because at the core, that's Finn. Finn is a good guy.
Yeah.
And being at the core of that, he's just like, well, I gotta go save my friend. She's my friend now. Like, he kind of owned her a little bit. He's like, that's my friend. I'm gonna go get her. You guys do whatever. That's right. She's bestie.
My bestie.
She's bestie, which is akin to like you and Maddie. You guys are always like so close like that. So, Madeline Norton being our Rey. So, Super, super cool to see that. And I think just for Finn, I think at some point it became more to him than just, I feel like Rose Tico, the character of Rose Tico, really served to kind of expand his view and expand his reasons why he is in the fight. He was able to see, all of this, the brutality that, at Canto Bight, when they had that moment in episode 8, he was really like awoken by Rose, like, oh my gosh, this is like not just like, look at all this tyranny and all this suffering, and at some point that changed it. It changed his perspective, right? And he just he elevated, and he was just like, it's not even about Rey anymore, right? It's not even about me anymore. It's about all these people. Yeah,
it's about everyone.
Yeah, so I really love that, and I love his character so much, and I'm so excited to be able to actually get him to the point where we see him as a Jedi in episode 11. So I know I'm terrible about keeping secrets, guys. I'm so bad. I'm terrible about it. But yeah,
Spoilers.
I mean, yes, totally. Spoilers all over the place. But I could do that because it's my movie.
You can do whatever you want, Maria.
That's right. I will not spoil anything about Ahsoka because that's not mine. Yeah, so I'm super, super excited to see, Finn really just come into his own and be who I always thought he would be. So, all right. So anybody else? Go ahead, Taylor. Yes.
Well,
Bliss.
yes. Well, Zorii was seemingly neutral, but it's not a surprise that she was going to be joining the rebellion because, she wanted to be a good person. Deep down, she always wanted to be a good person, especially when she met Poe and saw how good of a person he was.
Right.
And,
yes.
yeah, so, and then also, the First Order was always just kind of the enemy to her and her home. They took over and all of that and destroyed it. So it was just a no-brainer that she was going to join eventually.
Yeah, and I mean, you could hear it when in episode 9, where Poe follows her up to the rooftops where she's keeping watch, and you can hear it in her voice when she's like, they started taking the children first, and like that was like you could just hear it in her voice. Kerry Russell did an amazing job of portraying Zorii and portraying her like disdain with what she was seeing, and like just through a mask. We never got to see her face. You know what I mean? Like it was great. It was amazing to see that. And I just remember that moment where her and Poe kind of look at each other, and she's like, I've got a way out. Come with me. She's like, come with me, Poe. And it's like, once again, they're like right back to when they were like, in their earlier years. And you could see Poe, and he's like, he wants to so bad. But he, like Finn, has, and it's bigger than him, right? This whole thing is bigger than him. And he's like, I can't walk out on this fight. And for Poe, I mean, he is the son of rebel heroes. I mean, Shara Bey, Kes Dameron, both served under General Han Solo, and Shara Bey served with Wedge Antilles, and all that. So like they're rebel heroes. So he's kind of has that in his blood too, to just be like that. Yeah. And Robert, what about you?
To that point, like I don't think anyone knows this, but Beaumont Kin, I actually found this out when I auditioned. I looked up the character before I auditioned, and Beaumont Kin was apparently a teacher. Like in the lore, he's an educator. He was like a young professor in the making, and I think because he knows so much about the galaxy's history that he doesn't want to see it happen all over again. Yeah. And I think that's what pushes a guy like him, just a regular educator, regular teacher. I think the ultimate reason why you would want to learn history in the first place is like you want to understand how catastrophes happen. You want to know how to avoid that in the future, and to tell other people like, hey, this is what happened before. and this is why it happened.
Yeah.
And he did have a chance to like ignore what was happening, but he just couldn't, like many others in Star Wars.
It becomes
Yeah.
personal, right?
It does,
becomes
yeah.
personal. And as a teacher, he's just thinking, I mean, look at these kids. Like the First Order is just stealing children for their conscripted camps. And just like, he that probably really is the part that probably teetered him over to the side of the fight, because he was just like, these kids, like, they're being separated from their families by force. It's not, it's not pretty. And the thing about him is, for in our story, he's kind of in the background and he doesn't have a lot of lines and stuff. But I think for me, Beaumont represents every rebel, right? Every rebel, every member of the resistance that's not, at general level or lieutenant level or anything like that. He really does represent the majority of just your regular average people that, band together for this common cause, right? So it's a really excellent thing to do. And so I have 2 questions, one for Leia, one for Susan. For Leia, what makes Princess Leia so uniquely qualified to be the leader of the rebellion?
Oh, where to start? To quote Lady Gaga, she was born this way.
Yeah.
Literally born this way.
Yeah.
She had an incredibly kind, brilliant, political, beautiful mother. And then she had Anakin Skywalker, and she was born from love, really.
Yeah.
And then her dad thought he was doing the right thing out of love to turn to the dark side. He was very misguided. Mm-hmm. And then, and then she gets, her adoptive parents, Bail and Brihanna. I always say that wrong.
Yeah.
Apologies. And so growing up in a life of politics and rebels.
Yeah.
So they're the ones that were kind of behind the scenes. Like if you read her Princess of Alderaan book, it's like opened my eyes to her as like a young buck teenager and how she was exposed to this. But there's something like in her, it's just almost like Finn being at 2 years old, getting kidnapped and forced into being a stormtrooper. It was just always against his grain. People can recognize, and Leia has always been able to recognize goodness and evil, even from her birth roots. But she's uniquely qualified because she had that political exposure, and so she knew how to talk to people. She was very diplomatic, and she knew how to inspire the masses. But she also had that heart that she had the galaxy's problems on her shoulder, and and her life of service as a princess in the Alderaan monarchy, like her life was never her own, and she was okay with that. She knew
was
that
born
was
into
fine.
Service. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
She knew like this, what can I do for the greater good? And everything that she did in her entire life was for the greater good, even coming down to her as a mother and doing everything she could for Ben and kind of not being there so she could be a part of the Senate or run the rebellion. It was just, she gave up everything because to her, the galaxy were her children. Every single person in the universe was hers. And she knew that like one galaxy's problem was her problem, and one galaxy's, criminal mastermind, evil empire, that was her problem too. And so she took it on with such grace and motivation that people just wanted to join that.
Yep. Absolutely. And I think one of the things that is like not often talked about is the fact that, Princess Leia, having been part of such a, affluent family as the Organas, right? I mean, she put most of her money, her own money, into building the resistance. And because she was such a great orator and speaker, and she, she really could sway people to the cause, she really was able to continue to fund the resistance as a paramilitary organization with the help of those senators that unfortunately met their end with the Hosnian Cataclysm. And so the resistance is in a precarious spot right now, right after that event. And of course, Leia is the one that will, she's going to go out there and she's going to find that money to like be able to, keep keep it going. And that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of this and a lot of that at the expense of, you know, time with her son, time with her husband, you know, I mean, and then starting to feel like her son was, I want to say, courted by the dark side at such an early age. You know, and she was just so worried about that, you know, because of course she knew that, you know, it was part of her family's history, right? her DNA. And so I feel like, you know, her just that's a hard place to be in, you know, to have to fear losing your child that way, right? So,
and she never through all that, she maybe strangling Jabba the Hutt, but there wasn't a lot of darkness with Leia either.
Yeah.
Like she never wavered.
Yeah.
Like even Luke kind of wavered, and like, you know.
Yeah. Well, Anakin obviously.
He like really wavered the farther side, but like Leia never really. There was like greater good murder.
There was never this teeter totter with her. She was on her path, and she never,
eye on the prize.
Yep, never deviated. And we say that there's a line that is said in our movie in episode 10, and we actually speak to that quite poignantly. It's the fact that Leia has never waited. You know.
Yeah.
So and you know, and if you think about George Lucas had wanted to originally he thought about making Leia the chosen one. And that was something that George really, you know, kind of thought about for a while. He was like, maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't, you know. So he was on the fence about that. So I happen to think I have a whole entire, you know, different outlook on what the chosen one means. To me, I feel like Leia is the chosen one. I feel like Luke is the chosen one. I feel like, you know, anybody that comes from Anakin's bloodline is, you know, it's going to carry the weight of that prophecy. So
absolutely. I love that.
Yeah, she fulfills that. So, all right. And then I have a question for Susan. Last question in this topic, but why does Maz feel such a sense of responsibility to continue the legacy of Princess Leia?
Well, I'm gonna say it in my own words.
Yes.
Like if the light side were a brand, Leia would be the brand ambassador.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, she's strength and she's hope and she's resilience, and Maz has all of those built-in qualities as well, and she can love just as deeply. So her duty that, you know, she assigns herself is to continue guiding the next generation with those same tools.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you guys. We're going to move on to our next topic. We're going to talk about the sacrifices you never see. There are so many. And, you know, I think that that's such a poignant topic to talk about because, you know, it doesn't come for free. That's for sure. So let's hear about it. The moral dilemma all rebels face is an agonizing choice between what is right and what is law. Rebels do not wake up one day and decide that that day is the day they become turncoats. It is after decades of oppression and subjugation that the choice simply isn't a choice anymore. In that moment, they do not realize the sacrifices they will endure as a result of that choice. Those sacrifices are often unseen by the many. So true. So true. And, you know, I mean, I feel like, you know, we kind of saw in the opening video, the intro video, the showcase video that, you know, I mean, the small little sacrifice. If anybody's ever seen Andor, you guys all know about Nemec. Nemec was, you know, someone who actually got killed quite, you know, he got killed quite, it was not a good one. But, you know, he was like that little bit, and what he wrote was just so, it just hits you because it's just like, it's like, and I love that he ends that manifesto with the word try, remember this, just try. Because, you know, that's such an opposite feeling from what we know of the Jedi and the, you know, well, not the Sith, but of the Jedi, right? Because the Jedi, you hear Yoda and he's like, do or do not. There is no try, right? And the Jedi are so black and white in that sense, right? And they're you know, they're kind of very dogmatic, specifically the Jedi of Anakin's time. Right? They're just so dogmatic and they're black and white, right? They don't, there's no gray with them. But with the rebels, there's always gray. There's gray everywhere. They're always living in like, what do I do? This, you know, there's always this questioning with them. And, you know, I think people, when they come to actually join that cause, they realize, right, that they've been in that cause for a long time prior. That when they come to the decision, to make the decision, hey, I'm going to join the rebellion or I'm going to join the resistance in our times, right? Like, it's something that they're like, oh, I'm going to do this. And now I'm going to do this. But then they realize, oh, wow, I've been doing it for a long time prior. So I think that's something that's really interesting. What sacrifices have your characters have had to make in their short or exceptionally long, in case of Ma's, lives? Like, what sacrifices do you think you guys have had, those characters that you guys portray have had to make? Anybody can jump in.
I'll go.
Okay.
If you want. Basically, I think many of Maz's sacrifices are completely mysterious stories of another time. You know, so we don't know all of her sacrifices, but we never probably will. Yeah, and she's probably made them all, basically. And maybe this is why she collects so many treasures and she doesn't purge them.
Yeah,
you know,
it's her generation.
Yeah. Keeping that history.
Totally. Yes. And the sacrifices that we know of, though, I mean, she's had past loves.
Yeah.
We know she had a husband that gifted her her statue.
The statue you see
right?
in episode 7, at her castle.
And she has sacrificed both of those things and her castle. You know, and like everything. And all she wants is attention from a Wookiee. And, you know.
Don't we all? Yeah. Don't we all?
Everybody could always use a Wookiee in their life.
It's true.
All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, you know, like, yeah, sure. General, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Gerald. Go ahead.
You're fine. So with Finn, I feel like him being like conscripted and taken from his whole family is one big sacrifice for his whole family, because he doesn't even know who his parents were because he was too young to even remember them. So it feels like Finn really didn't have much of a choice with his entire life, basically.
Yeah. I mean, certainly. Hello there. Certainly something that for him, I mean, he never got to have brothers, or he doesn't know if he has brothers or sisters or, you know, cousins or aunts. He has no idea. And, you know, the First Order would often, not always, but pretty often, would absolutely just, when they took someone, they kind of focused on people who were Force sensitive, and they would take them and they would kill their entire family. So, like, there would be no trace of them, right? So that there is no trace of them. So I feel like, for Finn, he just sacrificed an entire life without even actually making the decision for himself to do that. You know, he sacrificed this entire life. Someone sacrificed his life for him to do evil. To do crazy, you know, tyrannical things. And I think that for him, I don't think that he's thought about that just yet. you know. He hasn't sat down. He hasn't had a moment to think, really, honestly.
Yeah, he's just been on the move the whole time. He hasn't really had a chance to just sit down and reflect.
And reflect. Yep. And I think that's coming.
Oh, it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming.
What about you?
But don't-
What about
No,
you?
but like
Robert?
you know, Maz being like 1,000 years old, she's like the ultimate historian. Like if you think about it,
Yes.
and you know, I think a lot of these characters, and I speak for Beaumont, but I'm also relating this to Maz because unlike Finn, they kind of did have a choice, but it's because you can argue it's something like I would call like a burden of knowledge, just
Yes.
knowing so much, and not being able to do anything about it, or just asking yourself, I know this much, why aren't I doing anything? You know, I can do something to stop this. And you know, there was I don't know where I've heard this before, but it's something like, you know, there's always going to be these world bosses for all these gamers out there. There's always going to be these world bosses that people encounter. In Star Wars in particular, it's like a recurring theme where there's always this big bad that comes up. But the point is to just try, no matter how futile it is. But because people like Baz and Beaumont, they know their stuff, they know their history, and they gave up a life of otherwise peace. You know, you could easily just say like, yeah, whatever. You know, I'm out. Like I'd rather spend my life teaching and do than lay down my life for this. You know, and a lot of people in real history have done that, like just given up so much, and a lot of them unfortunately get forgotten, which is another reality that they have to sacrifice. Like, you know, no one. There's a possibility that no one will remember you, but knowing, especially with historians, like they know like who was remembered and who was forgotten, and yeah, that life of peace is just a lot less attractive when guys like them, people like them, think about what the future will look like.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, and I think that's probably something that you would probably see like Beaumont and Maz kind of like connecting with, specifically their breadth of knowledge around the events
just
of the
speaking
galaxy.
about world history.
Yeah, because I mean, how often would you get like the chance to sit down with someone who's actually seen it all, right?
Yeah, the first hand, what's it? The primary source that can talk. Yeah.
Yep. Eyewitness, right? And it's like sitting down with Yoda in a way, right? You know, someone who's lived 900 years. So, you know, the stories that they have, the stories that they can tell. So, I think there's a point of connection there between those two characters as well.
And you know what? There's also a lot of sacrifice itself in just having such a long life.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Because, you know, she's seen many connections come and go, and who hurts the most when there's death?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The people left behind, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so I have a question. I had a question for Leah, but I think we talked about it already. But then I have a question for Taylor. Zorii lived a life of conformity under the thumb of her gangster mother, Zeva Bliss. Why did she find it so difficult, even after destroying her mother's rule to save Poe, to break away from that prison?
Yeah, well, that's the only life she ever knew, was being a spice runner. I mean, her mother had her join the gang at a very young age, and then she was also meant to take over the mantle for her mom. So, and also, you know, the fellow spice runners were also kind of like her family, even though they're not great people, but, you know, she's been around them forever. And so when Poe just asked her to, you know, up and leave all of that, that's a hard choice to make, and she couldn't break away from that.
Yeah.
Not just yet.
Yeah. And I feel like, you know, I think that, you know, she has such a deep connection to Vivo and Vicii Hessian too, the Hessian brothers. They're kind of like her brothers, right? And there were very few survivors from her gang after the destruction of Kijimi. Like, most of those people, like, are gone, you know, in an instant. And I think that also alleviated, not only alleviated like her like, I want to say her sense of responsibility to staying in the Spice Runner, but it also is a motivator for her to join the cause, right? Like,
Yep.
bro, like all this stuff just killed all my peoples, all my peeps. They be gone. They were, you know, so somebody's got to pay, you know, and I'm
Yep.
sure Zori's the one to make them, you know. And
That's right.
That's right. and she goes on to have such a very interesting track with the Resistance, and you know, informing special interest group and stuff like that within the Resistance, that she really, you know, we really get to see her shine. Like, she was a great leader. That's the thing. Like, even though she had, like, you know, this very you know, unscrupulous bunch, she led very well. She was a great leader with them. So even if her focus was not necessarily on the up and up, she was actually a really good leader. So I think that she has a great amount of skills to provide to the Resistance, and, you know, I mean, also just, you know, the unification of her and Poe, you know, and just, you know, understanding that maybe she can have a little bit of happiness for herself, you know. She really does come to that realization. So I think it's really, and then Jason, I have a question for you.
All right.
Finn was taken as a 2-year-old and conscripted into a life of forced obedience and totalitarianism, right? Like, it's just horrible existence by the First Order. How did he break away from all of that to crawl his way out? And why was it so difficult for him to join the Rebels' cause at first?
Well, I feel like the reason why it was hard for him to, like, join the cause at first was because, like I said earlier, was like he didn't really feel like the Resistance was going to get very far in toppling the First Order. So after a while, like after spending a little time with Rey, getting to know her, and then meeting Poe, and then meeting Rose, he started to realize that, hey, maybe I can make a difference. And after he saw all that war, all that pain, all that suffering he was witnessing, he was like, yeah, I need to do something, because at his core, Finn is a good person.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. Yes, I agree, Canto. So Canto says that it's a crime that Zorii wasn't there from the start of the sequel trilogy. Right? Yeah, I agree. And I feel like that's a key thing for me, is to expand that story. The story of Zorii Bliss and Poe Dameron become the B story in our trilogy. So really big.
Maria fixes that.
Yes, I fixed that.
Yeah.
Maria fixes everything.
Don't worry,
Literally,
Kanto.
literally.
Maria fixes that.
For sure. Yeah, and so what do you think is the toll, and this goes to everybody, what is the toll on the physical person, the mental health, the emotional well-being of those that sacrifice so much? You know?
Go ahead.
Go
sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead.
I just think like every single rebel leaders puts all that shit aside.
Mm-hmm.
They like don't worry about themselves, their own mental health. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
They're not as like, well, I don't know what the word is, but they just don't even give themselves that. Any rebel leader in this world, they just focus on, again, the greater good. Of the galaxy.
They're kind of like a group of martyrs, essentially.
100%.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all sacrificing everything for the greater good. Like they all do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everything.
Like what they personally want doesn't matter.
Exactly.
But sacrifice can also be very empowering.
It is.
Right?
Yes, that's
very
true.
Sacrificing takes courage, and sorrow from a loss takes the strength, right? And those things create the empowerment.
Yeah.
And they take the love where they can get it too. Like Leia still has Han, even though she's the most selfless person, I think. But she still has her physical relation, like she has her person. She's found time to have love, and she's allowed to do that. So they do, you do carve out some time for love, and
Yeah.
Especially sorry.
especially sorry.
Sorry's more like she tells Poe what to do. She's like, listen,
Love that.
you and we're getting back together, and we're gonna be, that's it. And you have no choice in the matter.
That's right.
Yes, absolutely. All right. I think for the mental health aspect, one thing that really kind of comes to mind is, from Andor, right? From that series. Man, Luthen Rael's speech, episode 10 of that series is a 12 episode series. Episode 10 of that series, when he gives that speech, man, you're just like, wow, okay. He's like, I burn my life for a sunrise I know I will never see. That's crazy.
Yes.
That's, that hits so hard. And Stellan Skarsgård, I mean,
Oh,
Yeah.
legend.
Right?
Love him.
Absolute legend. So totally. And I think the sacrifices, I don't think the people really care that their sacrifices are seen or not. For them, again, like Leah says, it's for the greater good, and they justify it. All of it. They justify the physical, the mental, the emotional, all of that. They sacrifice that for the greater good, and I think they're also inspiring, right? Like the stories that are told in Star Wars are stories that are told in so many different things, right? It's not just a Star Wars story, and I think that's probably why for a lot of people, like Andor didn't feel like Star Wars, right? Because
Totally.
right,
Yeah.
it could have been anything, right?
Yeah.
And so I think for a lot of people, they were really expecting that show to like be Star Wars-y. But to be honest with you, I mean, the story of the Rebels is not a Star Wars only thing. And so for that expectation to have been the reason why you didn't see it or why you poo-poo it or whatever the case may be, it's like really, I want to change the narrative on it. I want folks that maybe that they didn't like that series because it didn't have the lightsabers and it didn't have the Jedi and it didn't have the Force, all this kind of stuff, because that's so much what Star Wars really is about. But I want folks to understand that, like, without the Rebels, there would be no Jedi. There would be no lightsaber battles. There would be no, I mean, the Rebels are the stage by which all of those things happen. And it's the same with, like, the stormtroopers and things like that on the other side of the coin, right? Like all of those folks, some like Finn, some are conscripted from so young, they're brainwashed, right, into thinking that they're doing something good. And so for them, they're like, they're no different than a rebel, really, because they've been so conditioned to that thinking that they're doing. Oh, but we're providing law and order for the galaxy, and they're just brainwashed into thinking that. And it's really hard to break that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, I think you're so right. Like, everyone has their opinions and is who's right and who's wrong. Like, there's some good sides about having, one leader, and like everyone falls in line, and there's order and every organization. But then it's like, oh, but the human rights violation, not just human rights, like all the species that are suffering and the billions of lives that have been lost in this world and all these worlds and planets just getting destructed.
Yeah.
So who thinks that's right? Like it's against most people's grain, thank goodness.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Anakin said it best. He's like, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil, right? Like, because, he had such a different perspective, from what was denied of him, so much was denied of him. They ripped him away from his mother at such a young age. And
he couldn't have a wife. He couldn't have love, couldn't have relation. Yeah.
It was like always just no. And so from his point of view, they were, they became the evil for him. So, but so, all right, so let's move on to our next topic. We have what happens in the aftermath of rebellion. Freedom isn't free. It costs far more than just the many lives that are lost to try to attain it. The price you pay is stability. When you remove one power, however evil that power may be, you create a power vacuum that can take decades to overcome. How will the Resistance, the only real organization left after the events of Exegol, respond to help the citizens of the galaxy? That's a big question.
Good question,
Loaded,
Maria.
loaded question.
Yeah.
Loaded question. I mean, obviously we know from episode 7 that the Hosnian system, which was an entire solar system of 5 planets, was annihilated, right? And there went the Republic. I mean, poof, gone, right? All the senators that lived there, everybody was annihilated in one failed swoop, right? And the galaxy is left now without any representation. It's like taxation without representation, right? Like Boston Tea Party here. And it's like, you know, they have no one to, you know, fund programs for, you know, for those that are, you know, distraught or suffering, right? Like all of that went away. All the infrastructure that the New Republic had built for so many years went away. In an instant, there's no one else left. There's only the Resistance. And I don't, you know, I personally don't think that the Resistance is equipped to handle that. What do you guys think?
I think they could be, and they will be, just not right now.
Yeah.
It's going to
It'll
be
take
hard.
time. It'll take time.
Yeah.
And money.
Lots of money.
Yeah.
Bust out the credits.
And
those
currently out of
credits.
reach resources.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you're going through any kind of like rebuild, it's kind of like a sports team, isn't it? When you're going through like a rebuild, it's always going to be like painful to watch, like just how, you know, just seeing how this group has to get their legs under them first before they can jump high enough to get where they want to go. And I think a story like that would be really interesting, Maria. You know,
Wink,
I think
wink.
that would be really interesting.
Yes, Rebels was a good show. It's a great show. I agree, Tom. And then Jason, for you, I mean, Finn was a janitor. He turned into a stormtrooper, then turned into a rebel, and now he's co-general of this Resistance, of what's left of the Resistance, which isn't very much. And you know, he's co-general with Poe, who's such a good friend to him, but also just, you know, also really new to this whole thing. Like imagine being taken from a janitor to being like the leader of all this, right? I mean, that's got to be kind of really stressful. To say the
It's
least.
a bit of a like, it's like a big shock for me because like, how did I go from just sweeping and mopping to literally leading an entire like organization, or rather what's left of it? But like, I feel like with Finn, he's kind of just like accepted it because like at his core, he wants to do the right thing. He wants to help people. He wants to make sure nobody has to suffer like him.
Yeah.
So
and I think
he's trying.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, you can go. You can go.
Yeah, I said, and I think also just, you know, the fact that Poe asked him to help. He's like, I need you to be my co-general, and Finn was just like immediately, oh, okay. Thank you for that, by the way. Right? Yeah. He's like, thank you for trusting me to do that, right? Like, I feel like that's what he was really saying in that moment. But you know, what's going through his mind right now when we start to see all these citizens kind of coming to them and being like, we have nowhere to go. Like all those people that were off-world from, you know, not everybody from that lived in any of the 5 Hosnian planets, right, was at the planet during the cataclysm. So they're off-world and they come home to like nothing. It's dust. The same thing with
gone.
Yeah, the same thing with Kijimi. I mean, obviously from Princess Leia's perspective, once again, like Alderaan, who was, you know, decimated, right?
Obliterated, yeah. Gone.
Yeah. So, I mean, what do you think is going through Finn's mind right now? Like, what do you think it would be his like most worry, his highest worry?
I feel like with Finn, he's not really concerned with whether or not he can do it, because in his heart he knows he'll be able to take on the mantle along with Poe. But also I feel like he's most like worried that things won't get better no matter how hard they try. So
Yeah.
he's anxious about that, but also he's just like, you know what, I just have to try.
That's
There's
it.
there's just no point in not
Yes.
trying at all.
And it goes back to that Dynamics manifesto, right? Like those words that were written so long before this moment, right, are still like ringing true, right? So they're still very much in the presence of mind. I think one of the things that's probably the most harrowing is, how are we going to feed these people?
Yep.
Right? How are we going to do this? Like, Princess Leia was the connection into all of the funding for the Resistance, and she's gone. So I think that's going to be a really interesting story to kind of peel back the layers on. Yeah.
There was always someone else on top that they could. Oh well, Leia will know the answer, but now they're like these like middle managers are left at the helm. And like they can do it. I just don't think that they know they can quite yet. There's a little insecurity there.
Yeah, they've lost their biggest lifeline.
Yeah, and that always like, it's like the first time you have a sleepover without your mom. Like you're like, what the hell do I I can survive without this person. Yeah, so it's going to take them a little while.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how they do. And no one's a good leader immediately.
Right.
Like no one's a good boss. You got to learn, you grow, and that's life, man.
Yeah, some people have the natural traits of a leader, but they don't just come into the role like immediately. It takes practice.
It takes practice. Yes.
Well, Leia came into the role knowing what to do. She's born that way.
Yeah. Leia,
she's a Skywalker and a very formidable Force user. So
yeah,
I think that's really great.
Help.
Yeah, she had some help. Just a little bit of help. Not to mention, I mean, she really had Bail Organa to look up to.
Totally well said. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And these guys didn't have that.
Yeah, no, these guys.
But they had Leia.
Yeah. They had Leia.
Leia.
Yeah, Leia's like Leia's the true north, right? What would Leia do?
I kind of relate to like Finn's not like really being sure if he can if things are gonna get better, because like I was not really sure about like coming on here and doing all this, because like I'm usually very camera shy, very anxious. But I was just like, you know what? Let's just do it.
Yeah. No, yeah.
You're doing amazingly.
Yes, you are.
You are.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Jason, I love you.
Yes.
Thank you. I love you too, Susan.
Yes, we love you.
And that's the
I
thing,
love you
guys,
all.
like for us.
Keep going, General.
It's so great because we have really become quite a little acting family here. And like, we're all going to grow up together. Like, I mean, I'm old, but
no, you're
not.
still
young. I'm still young.
Yeah. But some of you guys are still really young. So you get to like learn from some of the oldest. I mean, we have folks in here who are they were on Broadway stages, bro. Like, you know,
or Wexleys.
Yes. Yes.
I love that.
Nora Wexley, Donna Heffernan and Charles Wilson are all stage actors and have a great.
We also.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Maria. I didn't mean to interrupt you. We also have a cousin of Robin Williams.
Who?
Oh wait, who is this?
Who is it?
You?
I went. No. I went and read all of the bios on our website, and right now, I'm having brain fog, and I can't remember his name.
I bet you, Catherine. I bet you, Catherine knows.
Sneeze, though.
I bet you,
I thought she was gonna reveal herself. I thought she was gonna reveal herself.
Right,
I thought you were just pumping your own tires here.
Now all of you have to go to the bios, go to the website.
That's right.
Yes.
Go to our website.
But we have Robin Williams' cousin, and I can't wait to. I just want to hang out with him and have coffee for a little bit.
That's amazing. Yes. And so, we really do look out for each other, take care of each other. And it's such a great environment for anybody to be part of, for real. So, okay. And then I have a question for Robert. Beaumont Kin, like many others, is a representative of the general members of the resistance. He's not a leader himself, but what do you think that section of the resistance, the everyday people, think of the taxing weight they have taken on as a safe harbor, quote unquote, for all of these displaced people?
Yeah, there are a lot of them, and I think what comes to mind for me is like how many of these people like are pacifists one way or another. Like they don't know how to fight. A lot of these people don't know how to fight. If you look at history, like there were a lot of people who were part of rebellions, especially in my country's history. It's centuries of just people who didn't necessarily fight, but were way invested in the resistance efforts, against colonizers and empires, what have you.
Yeah.
And I love this line from Rogue One where Saw Gerrera goes as the whole place is coming down. He's like, "Save the dream,"
Yes.
and I think that's exactly what's going on with people like Beaumont and the other and his peers. Like, these people are counting on us, and we have to. If we can't fight, we just need to survive. Just keep the dream alive.
Very well said. Very well said. Yep.
Yeah, keep the dream alive. Because as long as it goes back to hope, hope gets thrown around in Star Wars a lot, but that's exactly the point of going against a giant like the Empire is it looks impossible, but with hope and just keeping the dream alive enough, because hopefully it'll reach somebody who can do something even more than you can. Because even if I give up, if I give up my life, or if I look at history, like at least in my country, like some people gave up, and after centuries we were able to make it. We have our freedom now, and I'm happy that my ancestors who sacrificed themselves to get to where we are now it was worth it in the end.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well
Absolutely.
said,
Like the dream,
Robert.
for the dream of freedom to spread, you just have to survive, and that's what people like Beaumont, I think, how they feel.
Yes.
Here.
And that's what makes up the real bread and butter of the resistance is people like Beaumont. It's it's not just the leaders or this or that, it's the people in between, the people that are doing everyday little tasks every day just to move the needle just a tiny centimeter forward,
Like literally too, like imagine the people who like make the flags and make all the emblems, like the symbol for the rebellion. Who made I don't know. You might know the answer, Maria. I don't know who made the rebel symbol. Oh, I thought you.
Droid. It's gotta be some droids.
No.
It's a droid shop.
Yeah, but somebody made that. The point is like somebody made that.
I mean, just
they were that dedicated.
the X-wings, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, the
somebody
A-wings, the
had to
wing
make
wings.
those.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody had to make those. Yes, we do.
Yes.
Did we? did your internet
lost-
kind of cut out? All right, let me fix that. Get you back on here. Not a problem. That happens sometimes.
Would have been awesome if you had like an echo filter and just told us use the force or something.
Use the force. Use the force.
Well, we do this. Can we play Brady Bunch?
Brady Bunch.
Hi, Leah.
Oh, hello.
Oh no, I was going the wrong way.
You're going.
Hi, Leah.
Hello.
Hi, Finn. Hi, Robert.
It's like mirror.
Finn's
Hi,
back.
Maria.
Finn's back.
I'm back.
He's back. Wi-Fi, not your best friend right now, right?
Absolutely not. Especially not in here.
They're jamming our comms.
They're jamming the
What do we
comms.
do, General?
They're jamming our-
General.
I'll figure
right.
something out.
And then this is a question for all of you guys. What are some of the challenges that everyone will have to face in regards to rebuilding the Republic and restoring democracy, okay, for an entire galaxy? That seems like a monumental task.
Oh my God.
Right?
So, I'll just say the one word: supplies.
Supplies.
Like, I think that was
Yep.
that was like I think that was the scene I was in. We're
Yeah.
talking about how it gets supplied.
Yes.
And I didn't actually, when you were doing the scene, actually, I remember, like, I don't remember if anyone actually talked about this in the other movies. Like, what do we do now?
Like, what do we do now? Where are we going to get? Who's going to feed these people?
After the OT. So
Yes.
it's like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that
Yeah.
You need to do extra work when the fighting's done.
Yeah, you gotta
Mhm.
feed people, feed the masses,
Yep.
Yeah, feed the masses, house the masses,
house them. Yeah,
Yes, for
clothing.
sure.
Yeah.
and also be able to coordinate with so many different people. Some people might not even feel a certain way about this new order because, like, there are probably some stragglers out there who are against the First Order dissolving in the first place. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the remnants of the first. Obviously. We know of some. There's one in the chat right now, Miss Sharon Goodwill. Those
Oh, Sharon.
Hi,
Sharon.
Sharon.
hey, Sharon.
Hi, Sharon, you baddie.
Yeah.
Definitely something that exists out in the world. Not everybody was in favor of being free.
Well, you look at the Mandalorian this season when they brought in ex First Order, and they sent them to the rehab to be better people. And then there was so many little Easter eggs. Did you guys pick up on some of the Easter eggs? I can't remember the one character, but she's like eating the red popsicle. It's like, I like the red ones better. And like little hints, like they're not fully rehabilitated. So those people are still out there. I know that's not the same timeline.
There's our big bad lady. Sharon says hi. All right. Well, and then again, for all of you, what do you think the Resistance is up against in planets where a new power has risen? Because, obviously, when you remove a power, no matter how evil, right, there's going to be other evil, or maybe not evil, but not so great either, powers that will be quick to like replace them. Right. We see kind of at the end of episode 9, we see that a lot of the planets stand up and they rise up and they overturn the occupation of the First Order in their planets. But what happens is, that leaves a lot of space for someone to come up and go, well, I'll take that seat.
I'll do it.
Yeah, right. And
it's free real estate.
Free real estate, right? And those people could be, notorious gangsters like Zeva Bliss or Jabba the Hutt. And that really is kind of what happens in our story a little bit. You guys will see for some of the core planets, where there's gangsters that rise up and kind of take over. And so how do you think that the Resistance is going to deal with that?
I'm a Force ghost, so I won't answer.
Yeah. I'm also very minimal.
Zorii?
I'm going to say it is uncertain.
Yeah.
And that's where the tension lies in all of the uncertainty. And that's why we as viewers can't stop watching the story.
Yeah,
Totally.
it really is. That's why Star Wars is such a beloved franchise, right? Because they're always, telling new stories in new ways. Some stories are not so great, and some stories are really fucking beautiful. I thought, I'm so excited for what's coming, but I'm also very much a fan of Andor. I mean, Susan knows. We watched that together, and I loved everything about that. Learning about the inner workings of the ISB, the Imperial Security Bureau, that was phenomenal to me. I was just like, wow, this is so good, so cool. So,
and it's all about Andy Serkis too.
Yeah, Andy's fantastic with his character. So great. So absolutely great. So I think that with that, we will move into our last topic, which is about the very famous animated TV show, Star Wars Rebels. Known as one of the most impactful animated stories ever told across all of Star Wars, the fan base gives Rebels the most accolades. It often surpasses even Star Wars: The Clone Wars as a fan favorite. It's no surprise, however, due to the depth of the characters by which Dave Filoni tells his story. As we anxiously await Star Wars Ahsoka, easily touted as the 5th season of Rebels, what makes this show so special to fans? And we're back. And how many of you guys have actually seen Star Wars Rebels? I mean, not you don't feel forced. Don't feel bad if you haven't. But how many of you guys have? You have
I
not
haven't
seen.
finished it.
Have you seen Star Wars: The Clone Wars?
I finished all the episodes of Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
Okay,
I'm
so
what you call a Clone Wars shill.
Yes.
Which one?
Well,
I
there's
saw
a
both
movie.
of them.
The
The
movie.
2003 one.
The 2000.
Oh,
the
the
2008.
The 2003 one or the 2008 one?
I saw all of
2008.
them. 2003, 2008, and the movie.
Yeah, the movie.
Yeah, the movie.
The movie was in 2008. Yeah. I loved it. I love the Clone Wars. I still put Rebels at the top. There's just something so great about those characters. I think that what Dave Filoni did with the story of the Rebels was nothing short of like masterpiece. To me, like personally, there's one episode in Rebels called The Jedi Knight that is by far the most gut-wrenching, most beautiful, had me freaking like sobbing tears with like a box of tissues, right? Like I'm just like that episode was chef's kiss. It was masterpiece. It was really beautiful. And there's just never been anything like it in Star Wars to me. Period. Like I'm talking like it surpasses like the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, certainly the sequel trilogy, and most of the shows that I've seen. That episode was just beautiful. And the stories, I think one of the things about Rebels is these rebels are bounded together by like this common cause. But I think what they find in each other is much more beautiful. Because they really do, like, Rebels really does focus on the concept of found family, right? The family you choose as your own, rather than the family you're born into, right? And I think that's really what happens to all these characters. Kanan Jarrus, Hera Syndulla, Sabine Wren, Seb Aurelius, Ezra Bridger. And Ezra has, this very common storyline because he's like an orphan who's a Force user. Sound familiar? Right? I mean, we've seen it in Anakin, right? We've seen it.
All the best characters are orphans in Star Wars.
Right. Yeah. Amen. Right.
Yeah.
And so we have Anakin, who was that. We have Luke, who was that. We have Leia, who was that. Even though Leia was placed into a very, very affluent family, but she was an orphan and she's a Force user. And then you have Rey. Right? All of those are kind of tied together. So I'm really interested in seeing how Star Wars Ahsoka, this is really going to be a live action 5th season of this show. It's definitely, I've been privy to see a few episodes. But
Of course you have.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And it's really, really good. Like, really, really good. And I just thought, what an amazing show. The story. And then there's like this little love story that happens too in it, between Hera Syndulla and Kanan Jarrus. It's like the Jedis, and this actually harkens a little bit to Cal Kestis too, where you have a Jedi who's like so devoted to this this religion, basically, because that's really what the Jedi Order is. This religion, and so like committed to it, but then figures out, well, all of that is gone now. I can kind of, let it go. And Kanan, he lets that go, and he falls in love with Hera Syndulla, and we kind of see them become the mom and dad of this little band of orphans, basically, right? Savine's not an orphan, but she just like vehemently rejects her upbringing and her the shape of what her family envisions for her. She just rejects that all and goes to try to find her own path. I think, how does that turn, like, how does a common cause make people kind of turn into this concept of a found family? I mean, anyone can jump in on that, but like, I feel like even for Finn, there's a lot of that in the fact that he kind of runs right into his found family. So how does like a common cause pull them together so that they're, so bonded together as like this family unit?
Well, really, like Ray, Finn, and Poe, they're all fighting for the same thing, and essentially, like they all hold like very similar values, and this entire cause basically brings them together as one big unit, and that causes them to feel a sense of camaraderie that they probably would have otherwise not have felt if they weren't in this like high stress situation.
Yeah,
Totally.
I feel that way too. I feel like also for Zorii, I mean, she's, kind of been the majority of her original found family is gone, like in an instant, blown up, and she just has a few of the folks that were off world with her. The Hessian brothers, Babu Frick. Like, there's a few of them there. We'll introduce them later, but I'll leave. But, she kind of has to start over in trying to make a family for herself. What are your thoughts, Taylor?
Well, I think now that she's joined the rebellion, she will definitely create those special bonds, because she'll be a part of those unique experiences and share them, and support all of those people that are also supporting her.
Yeah, for sure. And then I have another question also is around Hera Syndulla and Canon Jarrus. Obviously Hera is a Twi'lek, and Canon Jarrus is a human, and so they kind of become romantically intertwined, and they're coming from different species. And I don't think a lot of people really realize that what George Lucas and well, he was a mentor at that point. He wasn't really directly involved with Rebels, but he was absolutely still very much guiding Dave Filoni through that story. But Dave Filoni and George both, really speak to interracial relationships. And I mean, there was a time in our country where it was illegal to marry a man or a woman of a different race or different skin color, right? And so they kind of speak a little bit about that in putting Hera and Canning together without it being so blatantly in your face, right? Like they're not trying to do that, but like, how does that speak to modern times, presented through the lens of Star Wars?
Yeah, I didn't even notice, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even think about it personally.
Yes.
I was just watching it and watching them canoodle. It's like, didn't even think about it until you posed that question. Yeah. But yeah, isn't it wild to think that there was laws against love at one point, or even gender-based laws?
Yep.
And now we're so...
Moved the needle forward.
Thank God.
Yep.
Like we got smarter.
Yeah, we got smarter.
So, love is love.
And more accepting.
Yeah.
We got a long way to go, though.
We do.
Yeah, very long way.
We definitely do, and I think there's still so many people who kind of look at a black man and a white woman being together as like off-putting. Like there's still people who actually believe that, right? Like they should be together, like or vice versa. An Asian person with a white person, or like it's shocking to me that this is still going on in many instances, and there's still a lot of not just against coupling, right, but just racism in general. And I think that to speak a little bit about that, I don't want to get too political about it, but like I would say that there's been kind of a resurgence of a lot of those issues have been kind of resurgent back up in the world in the last, maybe 6-7 years, right? Where we really start to see people who, and then you're just like, wow, were you hiding your real feelings this whole time?
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
So
They're hiding in plain sight.
hiding in plain sight, right? Yep. And I feel like that's kind of what we've seen, and there's so much of Star Wars that actually speaks to that kind of stuff. That's really crazy, because you don't see, it's not in your face, like with Leia, right?
Totally.
Yeah, it's not in your face.
Yeah.
I know we're talking about Rebels, but speaking as a Clone Wars shill, it's a lot. It happens a lot in Clone Wars, where the clones were basically seen as objects. They're basically just seen as tools, and but they're also capable of caring. There was an episode where the clone troopers, they started to care about the other Twi'leks in Ryloth, I believe that episode was.
That was like a 4-episode arc.
Yeah,
in
in
the Clone
Ryloth,
Wars,
and then they really care. They really show that these people care. These people are human, even though they can be bred in like a tank, but they are not. They are men. They are not. They're not just tools.
Yes.
I want to tangent. I want to dovetail a bit to Hera and Kanan. I have not finished Rebels. I am very well familiar with the characters, though.
Okay.
And I think what's really cool about this is that they have a kid, don't they? I think I read that somewhere. I think what's cool about this is that even if they won't be able, even through the lens of Star Wars, even though we're talking about racism and all that, I feel like even though it won't convince those people that made up their mind, I feel like because Rebels came out for my generation, I was like 14 years old or 12 years old when Rebels came out.
Yeah.
So at that age, kids are starting to see Star Wars with this kind of content, these kinds of stories, where the friendship between Hera and Kanan grow so naturally that I think the next generation, like when they see stories like this, especially through a world like Star Wars, it'll feel so natural to them. They won't even question it. This feels natural. This feels normal, and I think that's the best thing anyone could ask for. Just convince the people that there's nothing wrong with this. This is a beautiful story about friendship and love that's developed through being in a foxhole together, and how being in a foxhole together can develop the strongest relationships too.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that also just the plight of Ezra Bridger, right? Like as an orphan, and him, becoming Kanan Jarrus's basically Padawan, right? For all intents and purposes, and he develops a very close relationship with Sabine Wren as well, and I think that being able to see, like for a kid who lost his parents so young, being able to see the love between Hera and Kanan is a well, I can do this too. It's kind of like almost like a permission for him to be like, okay, well, this seems very normal to me. Look, they love each other. So, for me, it's not going to matter what the differences between, between people are, right? They're just people that you can love. And how does that, that gravitation, I want to say it's almost like, why does that trope of the orphan, right? That's a force user. Why does that trope really seem to resonate in Star Wars? It's used so much. Why do you think that Star Wars writers, including George Lucas, gravitate to that trope, that story?
I almost think it's because of all the things and tragedies that can happen in a person's life.
Yeah.
Oh, good point, Tom Jr. Jackson. Good point.
Yes.
Whoa.
But of any tragedy to come in your life, losing your both parents and being an orphan, in my opinion, is one of the worst tragedies that can happen to a person at almost any age, but especially
at a young age,
people.
yes.
That's such an early part of their lives.
Yeah.
And it shows that, no matter what, these young orphans have had to overcome this, and they can still be effing awesome and fighters and warriors, and they're not wallowing in self-despair, even when they could be, because this shitty thing happened to them early in life, but they're not. And I think George Lucas and his writing team does such a great job of being like, look at all the shit these people have had to deal with, but they're still fighting.
They're still
for
fighting.
that greater
Yeah.
good.
They're still fighting for that.
They're
They're
in
still
it,
kicking.
in it together, and where else can we find a family? Okay, we don't have our birth, but where else can we find our home base?
Yes, yes. And I think Rebels does that so well. So well.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree.
I'm going to ask one last question. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh no, I was just gonna say like this. I don't know if this is a hot take. This was a hot take when The Last Jedi came out, where I think that Rey being no one was actually a cool thing to do.
Me too.
Yes.
Because yeah.
Me too.
Okay. Yeah. I think we did talk about this before,
You did,
Marie.
yes.
Yeah. I thought that at the time it was a hot take, but I think people started to lean on the idea, and I think it's like
I love that.
you can come from nothing and still be somebody. I think that's
She
why
started
George
from the
Lucas-
bottom.
I think that's
Yeah.
why George
Now she's
Lucas. Yeah, exactly. I think that's why George Lucas and the rest of the writers.
I
really liked
was,
the idea.
I was privy to some of the changes that happened in episode 9 in regards to that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, episode 9, it's no surprise to anyone that sees us here today or any of our cast and crew that for me personally, I hate that movie. Listen, I'm a big fan of J.J. Abrams. I'm actually a big fan. But I also know that J.J. was really under the gun and under the foot and under the thumb of Bob Iger.
Careful, Marie. We might go for another hour. To talk about this.
Right. He was, one of the biggest things about it was, they only gave J.J. Abrams 3 months to write that script after Colin Trevorrow exited the project. And he really, and he asked for more time. He asked for more time in both those movies. So episode 7 and episode 9. He was like, we need more time to flesh this out. And both times. And Rian Johnson also asked for more time. And all 3 of those movies and those 2 directors were denied that. Right. The story would have been very, very different had JJ been allowed to have full reign over what he wanted to do with episode 9, which, included leaving Ben alive. Okay.
Oh.
And included, Ben actually turning earlier in the movie. He turns back to the light, reunites with his mother, and fights with the resistance against Snoke. But because Snoke was killed off in episode 8, they had no villain. And, Bob Iger was like, well, let's finish it up with who we started it with, because Bob Iger isn't a creative person at all and shouldn't have said shit.
Zip it, Bob.
But Zip it, Bob. I could say so many things about Zip it, Bob now. With his stupid comments about the actor strike. Oh my God, I wanted to die. Yeah. But it was just a travesty. And then of course, JJ gets. And that as a director, right? You get the praise, but you also get the booze, and you get the hate from a lot of people, and a lot of people really didn't like that specific fact that Rey was made a Palpatine rather than staying as a nobody. That was something that a lot of people didn't like. The poor guy was left with nothing. Episode 8 was pretty much written like it was the end of the trilogy. Really honestly, Rian Johnson didn't care that his movie was a middle movie. He said it. He said it. He's like, oh no, I wrote my movie to be the end cap. I'm like, but you're not the end cap. What the hell, dude?
Yeah.
So it's just it was crazy, crazy times, but. Yeah, absolutely. So I think that we're going to ask one more question of everybody here. especially if you have seen the show or if you know about the characters of Rebels. Which one of them is your favorite and why? Anybody can jump in.
Oh God, I like Ezra. Like, you just
Yeah.
feel so damn bad for him. He has that Jedi mentality. Like, oh crap, this was really, I had a shit deal, but let's just keep fighting. I don't know. I just loved it. But he was like, he had that in him, but then he was taught that by his new family, and you just couldn't help but just love the little guy.
Yeah, he's a great character.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Does Ahsoka count? I know
Yes.
I've seen the episode. I've seen the episodes where she's there. Honestly, I skipped a bunch of the Clone Wars references. That's the one I jumped off of. But I would say Ahsoka is my favorite character, even coming from the Clone Wars. Because when I was a kid, I saw the movie when I was really young, the Clone Wars movie, and I was surprised when I grew up to find out that no one liked her at all. And then I love what they did with her over the years, and even especially in Rebels when she comes into her own, and just that awesome fight against Darth Vader. Spoilers. It's been years now. But that awesome fight against Darth Vader was just so heart-wrenching for me, and it's amazing to see how strong she's become, and at the same time how much individuality has come into her away from the Jedi Order. I think that was a fantastic way to cap off her character.
So
Can't wait for Ahsoka.
Sharon's favorite character is Zeb Aurelius. So she chooses Zeb. Anybody else have any favorites from Rebels?
Well, after watching that summary video that you gave us, Maria, I was really liking Kanan in there.
That's my favorite.
That character development was just really interesting and captivating. And then when I saw how it ended, like, I'd never watched any of that, and I only saw that 1 hour video, but I really enjoyed that ending, and it actually kind of got me teary-eyed a bit. I was like, why is this happening? Like, I never really got connected with these characters, but I was really invested.
Yeah, no, he is my favorite. Kanan Jarrus is my favorite. I think it's just because you really got to see, like, the whole arc of him, you know, from start to finish. And, you know, I mean, he died before your very eyes. Spoilers! He dies right
I knew that
before,
already, too.
He dies right before your very eyes, and it is absolutely... I'm telling you, that moment for me is the most beautiful moment ever in all Star Wars, hands down, where, you know, in those last few seconds, he's got one hand holding this ball of fire, and he looks back and he sees Hera, and the Force restores his eyesight so that he could see the woman he loves for one last moment. How fucking poetic is that, bro? Like, that shit just, like, it still moves me when I talk about it. It really
should be a psychopath test. Like, if you don't cry at that, you're a psychopath. That should be the test.
Yeah. Oh, Tom likes Ezra and Zeb, and was excited to see Zeb in the show. You know, show up in the Mandalorian season 3. I don't know if you guys caught that.
I missed that. No, I missed it.
Well, Zeb was like, he's I forgot his race. What is his race? I can't remember. So he's like a different species. He's not human. So it's not hard to, he's the one that sits next to, the captain, the X-Wing pilot. And you know, he comes up next to him in the bar in that scene. And he's like he's got purple skin. He kind of looks like a teddy bear almost, like a really big teddy bear. That's Zeb Aurelius. Yes, I was so happy about that. Yeah, for sure. Ray Sloan. Oh, she likes the. Yeah. She likes the bad girls.
Of course you do, Sharon.
Of course she does. Right?
Yeah. You have to.
Yeah, and it's very, very true. Ahsoka is so beloved now. You know, after some time, where, you know, during the movie, nobody liked her. They were like, "Oh, there's this snot-nosed kid," right? And
Yeah.
and then it
I was so surprised by that.
me too, because I really loved the movie. The Clone Wars movie
Yeah.
is one of my favorite movies. I loved it. I thought, what? Anakin has a Padawan? Please, what are you talking about? And I just thought, wow, what an interesting way of revealing more about his character, Anakin's character, through the eyes of a Padawan. I thought that was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
I agree.
And
The
then-
bad boy cut helps too. The short hair with Anakin, I like that.
Yes, and then Ashley
And the Jedi
Eckstein.
armor.
Ashley Eckstein bringing Ahsoka to life. I mean, you gotta love her. What an incredible voice actress. I mean, she is the queen. Bow down. I mean, I love her so much. She's so great. So yeah, for sure. All right, let's take some Q&A from folks in the chat. Type in your questions in the chat and we'll try to answer them. Some questions may be behind NDAs, so not all questions can be answered, or we may just simply run out of time today. If so, drop your questions in the comments. All right, guys. Let's see what questions. Let's see it, guys. Let's see the questions. What do you guys have for our panel? Any of those characters? We've got Princess Leia, Maz Kanata. We have Finn. We have Zorii Bliss and Beaumont Kim. What questions do you guys have for us? I have some for myself, but I'll leave those to the end. Uh-oh.
We all did.
We might be.
We're back.
We're back. There's a second. OBS is giving us.
I don't see
some
any
issues.
questions.
Hold on. OBS is being a little bit funky. Reconnection successful. Sorry about that, guys. Looks like we had a little bit of a hiccup in our internet connection. So that was me.
I passed it around.
You did. So, all right. So, like, what questions did we have from anybody? Tom, do you have any questions? Sharon?
Whoa.
Okay. I think we're.
Oh, good question.
Oh, that's a great question.
That's a very good question.
Any character within Star Wars, Sharon, or any character ever across all the things?
Yeah.
I pick Vicii because I just think Ross and Sharon have the most, or yeah,
They're the most
Kellyanne,
fun.
because, like, bad guys are way more. Well, that's not fair, I guess, but they're more fun to pretend to be when you're just so good at heart.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah.
And they're the most like
Yeah.
Ross's character is the most
Okay.
playful and evil.
Oh, she said Star Wars. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I pick Vader.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Vader, yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Because like I really like doing deep voices, and I tend to get really typecast for like villains. I've noticed.
Can you give us a sample, like a little sound sample?
Oh, for Vader.
Yeah.
Okay. Asteroids do not concern me, Admiral.
Ooh. Well done, Jason.
Well done.
I love you,
Jason.
Gloomy
Jason.
effect.
Thank you. I love you too.
I love that.
I love it.
Thank you.
What
Oh, the
about
Rebel? Yeah, oh, go ahead.
what about you, Susan? Other than your own
Oh.
character.
I am very, very boring because I think my answer is Maz. Because she's my favorite and I love her.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know,
good
like
one.
Understandable.
What about outside of your own character?
okay, you've got to help me with the name
Mhm.
because who's that little guy I love so much?
Babu Freak?
Babu.
Yes, Babu!
I love Babu.
Babu Freak. Yes. Those Uncellans are so darn cute.
Oh my god.
I'm surprised you didn't
He's
say
the best.
Grogu.
I do love Grogu.
You do
I
love Grogu for sure. Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And Taylor, what about you?
He makes.
Oh, go ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead, Shizen.
Oh, just Grogu just makes any bad episode good.
Absolutely.
Especially when he spins around in that chair.
Oh God, so cute. What about you, Taylor? Other than your own.
Well, if I could, it'd be fun to do Chewie.
Oh
yeah,
good
good
one.
one.
Be fun, right? Yeah, that's a good one too. Yeah, for sure. I like it. And why would you pick Chewie?
I just love Chewie as a character and the personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He ends up with a great partner.
Well, he's married. Bet you didn't know that. Yes.
What?
Yeah,
I'm freaking
Hey.
jelly. What's going on?
he's got a little Wookiee wife and family back on Kashyyyk.
Oh my gosh.
That's so cute.
Devastating for Maz. I know.
Oh,
That's the one thing you didn't know about Maz.
oh, I think so. I think that's it.
Maz might not care.
It's
Fair.
well,
Maz might
the
not
girl
care.
who plays her really does.
Yeah, that's probably true. All right, and Robert, what about you?
That's tough. Well, I'm a prequels kid, so I probably I freaking love Sam Witwer, so I'd probably love to do Maul at some point.
Maul.
And, like even
That's
for like
a good one.
any fan
That-
content out there, I'd be
Darth
down to
Maul.
like do it.
Yeah.
I love
That's a
Darth Maul.
Yeah,
good one.
and-
Darth Maul is
And
cool.
we have so anybody that's watching, we do have a list of fan films. I have links on there. You guys, Catherine and Tom, if you guys can throw that up there. There's we have a playlist, an entire playlist of like hundreds and hundreds of fan films out there. There's plenty of them about Maul, for sure. That's for sure. There we go, Catherine. She's got it. Okay, so then my question to each and every single one of you guys, and it is restricted to the people that are in this panel. Okay, so if you could switch your character with anyone else on this panel, who would it be and why?
Good question, Maria.
Yes.
Robert, you go first.
Oh no, I want to say Maz. I want to say Maz.
Maz?
My voice isn't deep enough for Finn and not high enough for either Leia or Zorii. I can probably do Maz because she's the most alien.
Yes.
You know, just get away. I can get away with it. I think. Just add some effects.
Let's
or
hear it.
something.
Let's hear it, Robert. I want to hear it.
What's the line she says?
Oh gosh, there's so many.
Give me a line.
I can't off the bat. That's okay.
How about
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about
okay?
it.
Han Solo.
Yes.
Oh, very good.
Hey,
Bravo.
Darren, I love that.
Very good.
That was really good.
I had to grip my throat for that. Yeah,
I
but-
know, right? You do, yeah. What about you?
I think I have one.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Jason. Who?
I would pick Lando with Gerald because I like Lando.
Yeah, Lando's awesome.
I love that.
Yeah. He's got
I
some
would pick
swag.
Leia.
Mm-hmm.
You switch- yeah.
Leah.
Oh, Leia's so good. I think I'd want to be Zorii for a little titch because she just seems so cool. Well, Zorii is cool,
She's got a lot of sass.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
but Taylor's got that smooth voice, like no grit. Like Carrie Russell had that too. Like just you do great.
Yeah.
And she's
Good.
hot. I think
Yeah.
Zori's hot.
Oh, she's
Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
so
definitely.
hot.
Yeah.
The helmet stays on.
Oh. All right, Robert. Little peeling back the layers to him.
Oh, you know it. What about you, Taylor?
I'll try out Finn. Yeah. I got you,
Yeah.
Jason.
Yeah.
He's got some funny lines. I love it.
Yeah.
He does. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He does.
What about you, Maria? Which character would you want to voice or just take on?
From all the ones here in this panel.
Just here. Yeah.
I think Zorii Bliss for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Zorii. I love her spunk. She's most like me. I'm like that, so not to toot my own horn. But I gotta ask my husband. I got a lot of sass.
Spicy women.
Yeah,
Spice
Strong-willed.
cats.
And you a
Strong-willed.
baddie.
for sure.
Love
We
it.
like strong-willed women over here.
Yes. All right, guys. Well, I think we've come to the end. I'm going to leave you guys with, I'm going to go through each and every single one of you guys and just let us know where we can find you on, social media. I know we have all the links, and I know that all of our moderators have been putting up those links as you guys have talked, but let us know what you're up to, what other projects you might be doing, anything that you would like to share. And we'll start with Leah.
Well, thank you guys all so much for tuning in. And this is my first YouTube appearance, and I just had the most fun. Thank you, Maria. And thanks to all of you on this panel, the best characters. And this is my focus right now. I love this project, and I'm just so happy and thrilled to be a part of it. Find me on Twitter. I'm getting more active on social media. I'm one of the old crew too. So anyway, thank you so much.
And Susan, what about you?
Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, I guess my social media stuff is up there. What else am I telling you?
What other projects you got going on? What things you'd like to plug?
Oh, that. That. A lot of audio dramas, actually, which I just love doing. Yeah.
Those are fun.
There's one coming up called The Adventures of the Fox and the Fedora.
Oh, that sounds so cool. Lovely title.
Yes, I play a character named Rosie Sweet Tooth.
I love it.
And then and there's another audio drama called Deconstructive Criticism, which I absolutely love.
Oh,
and
that's super cool.
This is the first job I ever won, and I play Edna the waitress in 2 episodes, and it was so much fun.
It's fantastic. Awesome. And Finn, our Finn, Jason, what have you up to? You got anything you want to plug? And where can people find you?
Well, for starters, thanks so much for having me.
Right now,
I'm currently on this web series called Nintendo High.
Oh, I love that.
It's basically about basically younger versions of like popular Nintendo characters like Mario, Donkey Kong, Kirby.
So
Link.
cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
What a genius idea.
Cool. Yeah.
And I voiced Bowser on there.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah, that goes back into what I was saying about how I get typecast for villains. That was the first role I ever got cast for.
That's badass, though.
I love it. I love it. And you are on Twitter and Instagram, right?
Yeah, I'm on those. I'm mostly active on Twitter, Instagram, and a little bit of TikTok. I've been trying to do a little more TikTok recently. So.
Oh, we have our TikTok queen here today. And she's up next. She's up next. Taylor, of course we can find you on TikTok. I watch you every day. But where else?
My God.
Where else can we find you? And what projects are you involved in? Anything you want to plug? Let us know.
Right, well, I mean, yeah, if you want to see me goof around on TikTok, you can follow me there, but I usually try to market and promote my projects and myself on Twitter, so even though I'm terrible at that kind of stuff, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity to do this, because I've always been super nervous about promoting myself like this, so I'm super thankful, and you guys all are amazing.
It won't be the last time. It won't be the last time you guys see all these beautiful people, so we'll have them back. I mean, the movie doesn't release till 2020, end of 2024. So you guys, we have a lot of time to have you all back too, as well. And Taylor,
there's some questions in here.
Oh, there's a question. Okay, but let me finish with Robert. Robert, where can we find you? And what have you been up to? And all that good stuff.
All right. So, first off, thanks for letting me on. I wasn't sure if I was gonna be let on because I thought it was just gonna be supporting and main cast. I have I didn't count the lines, but I'm an extra, and it's humbling to be allowed to be again with such talented actors, especially. I'm all the way across the Pacific.
Yes.
So being able to come here, it was worth waking up really early. Resets my body clock too, so thank you for that. I can get more stuff done today. But so you guys can find me definitely on Twitter, on YouTube, right there. I go by the handle Gantu Voices. If you go there, it's just me doing a bunch of memes. Like I'll do a lot of shit posting, but my main draw is voicing over a lot of
So do I.
we all do it. We
So do
all
I.
do it.
So do I.
collaboration soon, my guy. But,
Absolutely, absolutely, yes.
We want
I
in.
do. Oh, for sure. I can't do female voices, obviously. But yeah, I do a lot of shit posts. But my main draw is voicing over some Warhammer 40,000 stuff.
very
I really
cool.
love Warhammer. I really love sci-fi. I've been meaning to do a lot of other like excerpts of books, not the whole books, but just my favorite parts. I also do it's a side project I do. I do localization of popular anime on my other YouTube channel called Gantu Dubs.
Oh,
You
very
can
cool.
find me
That's
on
cool.
Facebook
That's
mostly and on YouTube as well, although YouTube doesn't allow me to upload most of my stuff. Facebook does for some reason, but you guys can find me there if you ever want to check out how Tagalog sounds in anime. But that's really fun. And as for stuff that I'm in a bunch of game mods, I guess. I have an up-and-coming video game mod for Skyrim. I'm voicing a Khajiit NPC soon.
Oh, very cool.
It's still in production, so I don't know when the release date is yet, but that's my next upcoming thing.
Very
Very
cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
very
think we have one last a question from Fawn John. As voice actors, how do you warm up for recording?
Oh,
Hey,
I have
Tom.
a sing song thing that I just pull off YouTube. Just Google it. Yeah, eat potato
Tom
chips.
had
It like the oils help your mouth. And
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Tom
I
had
have
a-
I have a
Tom had a
magic
question, too.
warm up.
Well, wanna run us through it, Susan?
It's a
quick?
magic warm up. I cannot share it because I learned
It's
it
top
from
secret.
my coach. Yes, I learned
Okay.
it from my coach, Brian Dobson. And I do it every day. And it's actually like I needed something that was a lot shorter than I was doing because,
Yeah,
we don't have
Tires you
time,
out. Yeah, no time.
and it is absolutely, it gets the embouchure ready.
Yes. All right.
Okay.
And then that's pretty much it, guys. Again, do look for our upcoming series that we're doing, the 5 tales that we're tackling as part of the arcs of our movies and our TV show. Check out a very huge thank you to my right-hand person, Catherine Newsom, my MVP. Yay!
Yay, Catherine!
And
We love you, Catherine.
And
We love
to
you,
and to
Catherine.
our dear friend Tom Jr. Jackson, who serves as our moderator. Yay,
Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, and as always, please do subscribe if you haven't yet, and give us a big like because we would want to make sure that this channel grows and I get to showcase all these beautiful people doing their job. Which. A lot of times voice actors don't get to, really showcase themselves very much. So I'm so happy to be able to do that for everybody. So do come back to us next month. And I think next month we will be talking to the Jedi.
Ooh.
So I'll leave you guys all with, with our socials and our website. And we exit this podcast with the end credits. And of course, Emperor Vitiate's theme. Take care,
I love
guys.
this theme.
Bye, guys. Thank you.